There's definitely an underlying scene there, and the interesting thing was it was happening much more in Orange County. The kids there were definitely a little more into the thrash stuff than they were in Hollywood.
We didn't want to be part of LA. That's why we stayed in Orange County. You know, we were a big-time Orange County band. We probably did 3 Hollywood shows in our existence.
To think of Slayer in Los Angeles when all this glam stuff was going on, for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. And I think that that's the best way to define what Slayer was about.
When Slayer first started out, they actually were wearing makeup in the early days, probably one of the only thrash bands who really ever went that route.
We put makeup on like guys as opposed to putting on makeup like women.
Yeah, we were like the anti-Hollywood thing. That's what we always, in the beginning, that's what we wanted to be. We wanted to be anything that Hollywood wasn't.
Yeah, when they first came out, I was almost like actually kind of afraid to approach them because they just seemed so evil, and the makeup kind of made them look even eviler.
For me, when I first started going and seeing, I saw Slayer at the Keystone in Berkeley. It was my first thrash show. I didn't know what it was, you know. And I was standing up front, and they went on, and the pit exploded, and it was just like, oh, this is thrash.
I remember the first time seeing them live in '86, and I was literally scared to get near where the action was happening. I mean, I went to go see them in Wasp, and I'm like, I'm gonna get killed here.
Seeing Slayer in the mall was probably one of the most religious shows I ever went to. It was the scariest place to be. I don't care who you were, and if you were Satan, you were scared. It was loud, it was heavy, it was amazing.
You could listen to the early Slayer records, you could listen to Hell Awaits, or you could listen to their very first album, or Chemical Warfare EP. And those are good, very good records, but the record that kind of changed me in so many ways was Slayer, Rain and Blood.
The best album for me, it's easy. It will be Rain and Blood, of course. I mean, it's the thrash Bible, I would say.
Dude, back in the day, if you put on Rain and Blood in a car with me and like my close friends, someone was going over the back seat into the pit and stage diving and chaos.
Well, definitely when Rain and Blood came out, that changed everything. The thrash scene and Slayer definitely went from being an underground phenomenon to being something that was huge and mainstream. And that record, to this day, is still one of the best thrash records of all time. And Angel of Death is probably, I mean, considered certainly by me and I think everybody else, is one of the greatest heavy metal songs ever.
Angel of Death, the heaviest song of all frickin' time. Can I just say that? Insane, and I hate you for writing it, okay? Because I wanted to write it.
Angel of Death! March in the kingdom of the dead!
Angel of Death is the most horrifying lyrical song ever. You know, it's like everybody else stopped writing. You know, you can't top that. That's the apex of you know, thrash lyrics or whatever, where it told a wicked story and it kept you completely engrossed, and, you know, there's nobody could top that.
Angel of Death! Mama to the kingdom of the dead! Infamous! Watch out! Angel of Death!
Slayer is it as far as a live performance. You cannot see a bad Slayer show. It does not exist. It doesn't happen. So if you end up opening for Slayer, you're pretty much screwed.
We got spit on the first
We got
night.
spit on, but I just opened my mouth and caught it and said, yeah!
Trouble, opening for us. Chicago band, right? So in the Aragon Ballroom, Trouble goes on stage. The crowd's chanting Slayer louder than the PA. I was like, wow, this is so fucking cool. And the drummer kind of snapped and he didn't handle it right. And it just got kind of ugly.
Yeah! Slayer! Yeah! Slayer! Slayer! Slayer!
Arguably the heaviest band of all time, and Slayer has never teeter-tottered or faltered for a second. And the integrity they've shown over those years has put them in a position where they are, where people, they've set the standard on what is heavy.
Gods.
Yeah. Slayer are pretty much the still reigning kings of thrash.
I mean, you know, Slayer, they've influenced as many people or more as us and Metallica, you know.
Well, Slayer really, when you look back on it, was probably the biggest and most successful thrash band from the LA scene. Even though Metallica started in LA, I think most people look at them and they really had their success when they moved to San Francisco. And Slayer was a true LA band. They still live in LA. And once they came out, you know, they influenced so many other bands, and you had a lot of bands that, if it wasn't really for Slayer, I don't think at the time in LA you would have seen any other thrash bands.